Hey there, today we are going to build a simple personal budget template. We're going to walk through this together from scratch. This is a screenshot of the end result that we're going to have, and I'm going to walk you through each step of the way. So let's go ahead and delete this real quick, and then I'm going to show you the theme I have. So as we build this, we're going to be using some custom colors here. If you don't want to use custom colors, there is some standard colors that Google has above. So I have these already set up, the ones I'm going to use, and then I have the font set up that I want to use as well. And so I'm going to use this for the title, subtitles, and then our body. So once I get over here, I'm going to immediately set from the default to our body one. And then let's go ahead and start setting up our structure. So I'm going to resize this column to 50, and I'm going to use this as our left margin. So I'm going to go ahead and put in our month name. We'll just go ahead and do January here. And then I need to set this to our title font and then our size. And I'm going to set that to bold. And then down below, let's go ahead and start with our income table. So we had a to-do list below the income table. So I'm actually going to add a column here. And we're going to make this one 20 in width. And that will be where our checkboxes will be down below. So let's start off with our income table. So I'm going to select a couple columns here, and I'm going to merge those cells for our title. Call this income. And actually, let's go ahead and merge two to give us a little room. I'm going to horizontally and vertically align this. So first of all, vertically, and then horizontally align. And then let's go ahead and pick a color. So let's pick this blue. And then I'm going to change this font color to white. And let's go ahead and make this bold. We'll use our title again, and let's go up to 16 in size. I'm going to use this as our name field, planned income, actual income, and our difference. And so we can go ahead and do the same thing here. We'll just horizontally line these. And then we're going to use our next color down. And then we're going to take some fields. So let's go ahead and do maybe about 10. So that's 11 there. So that'll give us enough room for the totals as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and select all this. I'm going to select for our borders. I'm going to select this color. I'm going to select double width. And then I'm just going to do it on the outer edge, just like that. And now let's go ahead and merge these fields here. So I'm just going to select these. These are all going to be the name ones. So I'm going to do merge, but I'm not going to click on this one. I'm going to come down here and do merge horizontally because I don't want just one big field. I want them to be merged just horizontally on each row. All right, so that gives us our fields here. So I can go ahead and enter in a couple sample things here. Job 1, job 2, side gig. So let's go ahead and move on over to our expense. So I'm going to narrow this down to be our buffer in between the tables. And let's go ahead and make our expense header. So this one, we don't need a checkbox over here, so I'm not going to create that one there. So we're going to use one for name, our budget amount, actual amount, and difference. And so I'll go ahead and merge these. And I'll actually go ahead and go down with this one as well. We'll do our horizontal and vertical. And then we're going to pick a different color here. Let's go ahead and pick this for our expense field. White, bold, font, and size. And we're going to do the same thing here. Name. This time we'll do budget amount, actual, and difference. And then let's go ahead and just finish up the width here. So we'll go ahead and do 50. And then we're going to select these and we're going to delete them entirely. Alright, so this name field is pretty narrow, so I'm going to go ahead and resize this. Let's go ahead and make it 200. That's good width there. And then we'll set our subheaders here, so horizontal alignment. Pick our next one down. Actually, let's go ahead and do our font change here. We're going to use, let's check here. We'll use bitter. So we'll change this to bitter. Go. All right, so for the expense, we probably want some more than the income side. So let me go ahead and set this up. So that's 21. That should be Let's do some more. Just make sure you have plenty there. So 32. We only need 31. We're doing more than 30 because we're going to have a totals here at the bottom. So let's go ahead and set this field up, and then we'll go ahead and do that. All right, so let's do totals. Let's go up here. Let's do totals here as well. And then we'll add a sum formula. And we're just going to add up what's going to show up in here. And we'll get to that here in a little bit. And so we're going to drag this formula over. And you will notice that breaks that. So instead, I'm going to copy and then I'm going to paste formula only. And you can see that does not break that border there. We're going to do the same thing over here. Sum. And I'm going to grab these. And then again, I'm going to copy and then paste formulas only. All right, so now let's get to our to-do list real quick. So our to-do list was here. To-do list. Go ahead and align. We'll pick this brown. Again, white here. Our title font. Let's go to 16 and bold. All right, so we're gonna do down to here to match that. So let's go ahead and do our border there. Now we can insert our checkboxes. And then that's really big, so I like to make them a little smaller usually. Go ahead and line those. We don't need all these boxes here. I'm just going to merge them and make one per line. So again, we're going to do that merge horizontally. There we go. All right, so we're coming along. You can see we already have our boxes put together here. We got one more down here at the bottom. We're going to do our transaction log. So let's go ahead and do this. Here we're going to use green and do the same things that we've been doing all along. All right, and so we need several fields here. We're going to use date, category, subcategory, and then let's do amount here and notes. So we're going to combine these fields. So first of all, let's go ahead and figure out how many rows we want in this. So we want about 200, I think. Let's go ahead and come down somewhere in here. Let's go back up, and let's go ahead and just add this border. Kind of gives us a reference point to where we are, and we can insert more if needed. So let's go ahead and go down here. I'm going to go ahead and delete the rest of these rows. So I'm just going to click on this one, scroll down, shift, click, and then delete those rows. All right, so now we got our transaction log. Let me go ahead and merge these columns here. So merge horizontally, and then we have this subcategory one. We want to merge that. We need a little more room for that. Go ahead and do that. And then this amount, merge, and then finally our notes. All right, so now we can go ahead and align these better, and then I'll use this one. So now we're coming along here. We have a couple fields we want to put in up here. And so with this, let's actually get this set up real quick. So I got this big field here. We want to add a couple things in here, 2 rows in here. So we're going to go ahead and insert a row below. Let's go ahead and merge this like that. There we go. So now we've got 2 rows in there. And so we could do income here and expenses, and then we could do those amounts. So income, let's do our actual income here, and then our actual expenses. And let's just go ahead and make this, let's do maybe this color, do white. Maybe we want to make this a little bit bigger. So let's go ahead and resize those rows, make them 30, and then we'll vertically align these. There we go. And then let's go ahead and change these. Go ahead and merge those, right align. Make these dollars there. So how about these? We'll use that bidder. Here we go, 12. And then this one, let's go to maybe this header one there. Something like that. That looks good. And then over here, let's do left to budget and left to spend. So let's go ahead and merge these. And then we're going to go ahead and set all these to center horizontally. So left to budget is going to be our planned minus our budget amount. And then left to spend will be our actual, do equals, actual minus our actual. So there we go. Make these dollar signs there. Make these bidder, that. And then let's go ahead and make these that same color, white font. You can see this is actually looking pretty good now. Alright, so now that we got the basics done, let me do a little more color here, but let's go ahead and start building the functionality part on this. So I'm going to go ahead and set these to a little gray here because we're actually going to fill these with formulas. So we want to be able to use this transaction log to pull from this list or our expenses here. So I'm going to go ahead and just populate some sample expense categories here. And we want to be able to select those. So for the category, let's go ahead and scroll down here. Let's do, and then you can leave it as chips if you like. You can change it to arrows. I like arrows personally. I feel like chips kind of crowd it a little bit. Let's go ahead and do that. And then instead of having to type in all these dates, let's go ahead and turn these into is valid date. And what that does is allows us to double click and select a date. So let's change this date format real quick. I'm selecting this field here. Let's go ahead and center this. And then I want to do something like this, but let me show you how to do this. This isn't always going to show up here. So let's do custom here. This is likely what you're going to see. We can either modify this. I don't want this // I want just a space. And this // let's add a comma. And it turns out just like that. Let me show you how to build it from scratch, just in case you need to see that. So if we blank this out, we can take this month, change it to August, space, day, comma, space, and then year. You can select the full numeric year. That's how you can build that from scratch. So now, if you select a date, it automatically pops in with that format, just like that. And then we have our income expense. So now we just need our subcategories. And so since we could select an income or expense, we could make this a dependent dropdown where if it's an income, it's show up as income or expense otherwise. I'm not going to get into it in this video. I don't want to make it too complex for you. So we're just going to combine these. We don't have a ton of categories, so it's not going to be too complicated. So I'm going to add a tab here. We're going to call this dropdowns. And so in this, I want to combine what we have here and what we have here. So we could use a couple different things. Probably the easiest I'm going to use here is called an array literal. And it's this curly bracket. I'm going to select this. The one thing here is I have multiple columns, and so that's going to mess this up a little bit. So I'm just going to tweak this to B, and then I'm going to use a semicolon. And what this does is allows me to stack this next range on top, or theoretically below our income. So if I just hit enter, you can see it's stacking, and there's those empty spaces from here. So it's stacking all those columns. So let's go ahead and just add a sort to wrap this. And then it's just going to automatically sort us in order, alphabetical order. Makes it easy to search or find. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete these extra columns. And now we're good to go. So now on this subcategory, I'm going to go ahead and select this. Going to insert a drop down. In this one, I want from a range. And then I'm going to select here. And then I'm just going to select my drop down range. Scroll down. I'm going to do arrow again. And then we should be good to go. So now if I scroll up here, you can see we have our drop downs. So we have everything from our expense we also have our income there. So one thing you can keep in mind is you can just start typing whatever it is, and then the options narrow down to whatever you started typing. All right, so now we got this. Let's go ahead and populate, let's say, a job 1. And so let's say your paycheck was $12.50. Let's go ahead and make these a dollar amount format here. And go up here. We're going to use a simple formula called sum ifs. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to grab this column. And so I'm just going to go ahead and just type in here to G. You can see it's not including H. It doesn't have to in a merge field. You only need the leftmost one in that. Okay, so that's going to be our sum amount. And then we need to do our sum ifs. So our ifs is going to be if our subcategory matches. So I'm going to grab this E45 and then again finish that to E. And then a simple comma, and then I can just select my job 1. And so you can see that is B9. And so now we have our result. So I'm going to drag this down so we can get job 2, side gig, etc. But if I do that, let me just show you real quick. This field starts migrating down. And so to prevent that, what I'm going to do here is click on F4, and you can see that adds $ to my range. So what that will end up doing is prevent that from moving. So now if I drag this down, you can see that 45 stays the same as I go down. You can see that 45, but that B changes as we go down. And so if we add a side gig down here, and did 200, you can see now it's pulling through. So there is our actual. And so let's go ahead and just add a planned amount so we can see our difference. And then for our difference, let's just do planned minus actual. And then we can drag this down. So there we go. Now we're getting close. We can actually just copy this formula and bring it over here. And then all I need to do is change this B9 to I9. And let's go ahead and drag this down. And then let's do our same difference. Drag that down. And now we have all of our formulas in place. So now we can finish up doing our formatting. We can do some stuff here on these subtotals and these totals. And then we can get rid of all this lines here. So for example, we do get rid of grid lines. You see that looks a lot cleaner, but we need some grid lines in here, so we're going to add those manually. So let's go ahead and leave off the grid lines. This is where you show them again. Let's go ahead and leave them off, and we're going to build them in manually. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and just start with this, and we'll go field by field. So I'm going to go from that double thickness to the single, and then do inner borders, just like that. And let's go ahead and make this a little different. Add a top border there. Let's actually change this field background as well. Let's go to that. That looks good. Maybe add that bold. Maybe change these to our currency. So let's do the same thing on this one. Go ahead and start here. Go to our lightest color. And we still have singles, so we're good there. Inner borders. And then let's modify our bottom one. So we're going to do just the top border, and then let's change the background. Bold and currency. Maybe centering this will look good too. There we go. So this one we need some lines in here. So let's go ahead and select that. Go to this one, and then we'll do inner borders just like that. And then finally, let's go to our transaction log. We'll get our green. Like maybe this one's supposed to be that one. There we go. Let's add some stuff here. Let's get this into currency. Let me just fill in some amounts here. And I'm not gonna take your time by typing this all in. I'm just going to go ahead and copy in some ones here. And then let me just copy in some transactions. This will help us to kind of see as we finish building this, what we can do here to make this more streamlined. So for example, on this difference amount, let's go ahead and add some highlighting. that one looks a little obnoxious, so let's get rid of the background. Let's just do this number. And so let's do green. That was a little hard to see. Maybe we'll do, there we go, that's a little easier to see. Now this one, we still have an amount left. That will be green, I think, if that makes sense. So depending on which one makes sense to you, because maybe you want to see green as in this is how much you have left to make, or maybe that is actually a deficiency if you do not have that much. So let's go ahead and make the other one, and you'll probably see what I'm talking about. So greater than, change this to red. So you could look at this as saying you're down $12.50 from your planned amount. So if you get more than the planned amount, then that would show green. So it's probably a more intuitive way to think about that. So we'll go ahead and leave it like that for now. Let's just add one more here. So let's just say if it's 0, we'll just kind of gray it out just a little bit. And then let's do the same thing here, but we'll swap around our logic here. Let's go there. Let's do our red. And let's do this one. I don't need it on both these fields, I just need it on this one. So if this is less than 0, this should be red. Greater than 0, it should be green. That's showing us we still have $50 left to spend in auto transport. And then let's go ahead and do the same thing here. Format, initial formatting, and let's add our 0 rule. So now it's looking good. And then let's say we have our to-do list here. So if we check these off, it'd be nice if these got a strike through. So let's go ahead and select this, add conditional formatting. And so in this case, we're referencing a cell outside of that. So we're going to use a custom formula, and we're going to add this $sign, if you remember from our formula, 24 equals true. Okay, so now we're obviously showing the right one. I don't want the background to change. Let's just simply do a strike through. We could make the text a little different color if you like. You can even do green, for example, or our green from our template. But let's go ahead and just leave that with just a simple strike through. And that looks really good right there. And then you can show them done as you go. Alright, one thing that looks like I messed up here is when I copied this over, it unmerged those fields. So let's go ahead and fix that real quick. Alright, that is it for today. Make sure to check our other videos on our channel for other tutorials, and keep an eye out for more to come. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.